Thank you, Chairwoman. It's great to see some of you, especially those who have done so much for my home state, and thank you for being here. I think it's been amply demonstrated by my colleagues and the Chairwoman that the Trump tax cuts disproportionately benefited wealthy and large corporations, and that these benefits have had no positive impact on the economy and no material impact on working families. And to add a data point, Mr. Duke, I think you were mentioning this, is since the tax cuts, America's billionaires are now collectively worth a record $6 trillion, a wealth that has more than doubled since the Trump tax cuts. And researchers from both the Fed and the Joint Commission have concluded that 0% of those gains, have gone to the bottom 90% of workers. And unfortunately, it seems that some are not here to participate in this conversation, but rather than accept the data, it seems that we're on a pathway to continue that or even further it. And I would ask you, Mr. Duke, you've touched on some of this, but not only just the Trump tax cuts, but in other prior moments of policymaking in history, is there something that our colleagues can point to where these kinds of drastic tax cuts to corporations and to the wealthiest among us actually have some trickle-down effect on America's working families and firefighters and teachers and the middle class in New Jersey and through the nation?
I think all they can point to is that, oh, we need more tax cuts because this first round didn't work, so we just need more of the same, is kind of the argument that we've been hearing for the last few decades. There's no evidence that it has had any appreciable contribution to American, to the outsized GDP growth that the U.S. has had compared to its competitors.
And while I appreciate that some who are not here may disagree, I think policy positions are an explanation of priorities, and either you are prioritizing the consolidation of opportunity or you are looking to expand this country's economic wealth and growth from the middle class out. Ms. Schuler, you've been involved in so many things that we've been able to do in terms of the progressive agenda in New Jersey over the last 8 years. With this chairwoman's leadership in the Biden administration, the ARP was able to expand the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. Expanding these credits lifted approximately 10 million Americans out of poverty. The success was replicated in many of the states that we represent, specifically with your help. We were able to do it in New Jersey, providing a state-level credit that provided $1,000 to the lowest income families. Again, thinking about the priorities of whether we're prioritizing those who are already doubled their wealth in the last 7 years or the working class, in terms of just the workers you represent, labor or otherwise, what kind of an impact would expanding the CTC and the EITC mean?
So the traveling that I do and talking to workers, the most often raised issues are childcare and housing. And those are the costs that people are struggling with. And I'll just share one quick story. I went to a convening of 5,000 women in the trades, women who are accessing pathways to the middle class through good construction job training and making their way into good, stable employment because of these opportunities. And the one thing that kept coming up over and over again that is a barrier to getting more women into construction is childcare. And, they have they deal with unique situations because they go to work early in the morning and often childcare is not available, or they're not able to, on a moment's notice, find the capacity that they need. So this would enable them to have some breathing room and to be able to plan for their lives and to make the investments in their future that puts them on this pathway to a better life.
Yeah, so on one hand, we're looking at a tax policy proposal that, again, continues to consolidate opportunity among the wealthiest and the largest corporations, while at the same time making it harder for those folks who want to get back into work and restart their careers after starting families. That seems to be a way to shrink economies, not expand them. Mr. Morial, I think I heard some of this on my way in on your testimony, and I would applaud the chairwoman's leadership on this issue. But housing affordability is a crisis, whether it be in northeastern states in New Jersey, where I represent, or across the country. Home prices are 47% higher than they were just a few years ago. Much more acute for renters. We're 26% higher than just in 2020. In New Jersey, where we've had a progressive elevation in our minimum wage, which is now at $15 an hour, you would need to work 2 full-time jobs just to afford a one-bedroom rental. Mr. Morial, can you give us, in the short time I have left, what ways we can use the tax code to address and make significant positive change in our housing crisis?
I did also want to just go on the record that working people would benefit greatly if we had a national living wage bill. It's long overdue, and states like New Jersey and many other states have done it on their own. But Senator Warren, we need a national living wage bill indexed to inflation. Now, in our proposal, the tax code could expand the low-income housing tax credit, which has been a tool used to expand affordable housing in this country. But I propose something else, and that is an affordable housing tax credit, which would be a tax credit that would put money into the construction of affordable home ownership opportunities. We need to not only build rental housing, we need to build housing that people can buy and build wealth. That's how you create intergenerational wealth, through property ownership, through home ownership. So the tax code could be shaped, could be used to do that. The New Markets Tax Credit Program is another that has been used to construct mixed-use, affordable housing in this country. There are a number of things that indeed can be done. None of them address what we really need, which is a housing supply initiative to really build the number of units. We've gotten so far behind in the last 25 years, and that's why the challenge is so acute. But there's a lot that could be done in an upcoming tax bill if we centralize the needs of working families. And I think, Senator Warren, you're so right in really saying, let's call for the proposers of the 2017 bill to account for their promises so that the American people understand and know that what they were promised did not occur. And in doing that, stop this or shape a better approach.
Madam Chairman, I just have 20 seconds to just make a statement to piggyback off of what Mark said. Just to make one statement about the SALT deduction. You mentioned about black and brown home ownership. And what goes undersaid about the SALT deduction, which is essential in my opinion to encouraging home ownership and wealth building in black and brown home ownership in communities, because they pay an inflated share of the property tax comparable to white homeowners. So as this committee considered these important issues, I would hope that the SALT tax cap goes away.
I concur.
Thank you, sir. And I would just, I think, end where you ended, Mark, and applaud our chairwoman's leadership on making sure that our tax policy is reflective of what's in the best interest of working families. Thank you.
So thank you, Senator Helmy.